The lights inside the arena carried a particular weight that night, the kind that settles on a fighter's shoulders long before the opening bell rings. This was not just another title defense, not just another challenger stepping forward to test himself against a reigning champion. This was about reputation, expectation, and the fragile line between inevitability and upset. When Ryota Murata made the slow walk toward the ring, the moment felt larger than the building itself. He was Japan's biggest active boxing star, an Olympic gold medalist turned world champion, carrying an entire nation's hopes with him as he prepared to defend the WBA middleweight title on American soil for the first time. Across the ring stood Rob Brant, a fighter whose story unfolded far from the global spotlight that followed his opponent. Brant entered as the challenger, but there was nothing hesitant about his posture or his eyes. He was ranked near the top of the division for a reason, forged through countless rounds of sparring and an unshakable belief that this night could rewrite everything. As the introductions echoed through the arena and the crowd roared its approval, the contrast was unmistakable. One man carried the polish of international fame and championship pedigree. The other carried urgency, hunger, and the quiet confidence of someone who had prepared for this exact moment his entire life. For Murata, the journey to this ring had been methodical and disciplined. His professional career was built on fundamentals, crushing body shots, and a relentless pressure that broke opponents down piece by piece. He was known for his right hand, a punch that carried both technical precision and raw power, honed through years of elite training and influenced by time spent working alongside champions like Gennady Golovkin. This fight, however, was about more than refining technique. It was about proving that his reign as champion extended beyond Japan, beyond familiar territory, and into the heart of American boxing culture. Yet the timing was far from ideal. Murata had arrived only days before the bout, giving his body little chance to fully adjust to the time difference. There was no hard training in fight week, no final sharpening of the blade. The champion trusted his preparation, his experience, and his belief that class would ultimately prevail. Brant, meanwhile, had been living in the moment for months. He spoke openly about this fight as his Super Bowl, the culmination of years of sacrifice and relentless work. He did not intend to ease into the contest or show the champion any early respect. From the opening bell, Brant made his intentions clear. He surged forward, throwing combinations and establishing a pace that immediately demanded Murata's attention. The challenger's jab snapped out sharply, followed by quick right hands that tested the champion's guard. Murata remained composed, slipping shots and smiling, almost as if he were amused by the early aggression. But beneath that smile was calculation. He was reading the rhythm, measuring distance, and waiting for the moment when Brant's enthusiasm might create an opening. The first round belonged to the challenger. Brant's activity and movement set the tone, and he closed the round with the confidence of a man who believed he was exactly where he needed to be. Murata returned to his corner with a grin, the expression of a fighter who felt no panic, only patience. He had been here before. He understood that a championship fight was a long story, not a short chapter. Round 2 told a more complicated tale. Brant continued to press, throwing in volume and forcing exchanges that kept Murata from settling into a comfortable rhythm. Blood appeared at the champion's nose, and a cut formed beneath his eye. The visual contrast was striking. Murata, the polished champion, already looked like a man who had been through a war, while Brant seemed energized by every successful combination. The American crowd responded to his effort, and the momentum felt tangible. Still, Murata's smile persisted. It was not arrogance, but resolve. He absorbed shots and returned fire when opportunities presented themselves, landing solid punches to the body and reminding Brant that his aggression came at a cost. Even as the challenger stacked up points, the champion's power loomed in the background, a constant threat that could change the narrative in a single exchange. As the fight moved into the middle rounds, the tension deepened. Brant's strategy remained consistent: keep the pace high, use movement, and never allow Murata to set his feet. He doubled the jab, mixed his combinations, and refused to be intimidated by the champion's reputation. Murata responded by increasing his bodywork, digging hooks into Brant's ribs and slowly testing the challenger's stamina. Each round felt like a battle for control, not just of the ring, but of belief. By the 5th round, the dynamic began to shift. Murata found his right hand, turning it over with authority and finally landing cleanly. The sound of the punch cut through the arena, and for the first time, Brant felt the full weight of the champion's power. Yet even then, the challenger refused to retreat. He answered with combinations of his own, choosing to fight fire with fire in a gamble that spoke to his confidence and his courage. The exchanges grew more violent as the fight wore on. Both men absorbed heavy shots, neither willing to concede ground. Murata's experience showed in his shot selection, his ability to bring the right hand back into a left hook, his understanding of timing and distance. Brant's resilience showed in his willingness to respond immediately after being hit, throwing 3 or 4 punches in return and refusing to let Murata build sustained momentum. Round after round, the story remained gripping. Murata pressed forward, trying to impose his will and remind the challenger why he was the champion. Brant countered with speed, volume, and movement, constantly disrupting the rhythm and forcing Murata to reset. The champion's face bore the marks of the fight, and the sense grew that this was not the performance many had expected from the decorated Olympic hero. As the bout entered the later rounds, the mental aspect became impossible to ignore. Murata had experienced controversial decisions before, and the thought of leaving his fate in the hands of judges on American soil could not have been comforting. Brant, sensing opportunity, fought with renewed urgency. His corner urged him to stay smart, to keep turning Murata, to keep the jab in his face and avoid unnecessary risks. The challenger listened, adapting his approach without losing his edge. In the 9th and 10th rounds, the momentum leaned further toward Brant. He rocked Murata with clean shots, forcing the champion onto the ropes and drawing gasps from the crowd. Murata fought back bravely, landing his own power punches and refusing to fold, but the challenger's consistency and conditioning stood out. Brant looked like a man who had trained for this exact scenario, who understood that championships are won not just with power, but with endurance and discipline. By the championship rounds, the narrative had transformed. Murata was no longer the inevitable victor defending his throne. He was a champion fighting to survive, digging deep into his reserves of pride and experience. Brant, once the underdog, now looked like a man on the brink of history. His footwork remained sharp, his combinations flowed, and his belief seemed unshakable.